There are those who believe that the Ouija board is a direct channel to the dead and a portal for otherworldly entities. Others say it's nothing more than a harmless board game. If you've ever fancied dabbling with the dark arts and contacting the dead, listen to people share their most terrifying true Ouija board stories. They just may change your mind.
A few years ago, my friends, a group of girls, decided to try this out with a group of guys. We were in the 12th grade at the time. My group of girls had messed around with it before, to varying degrees of success. Well, this time, it was my hands on the planchette with my other girlfriend. This thing was moving crazy fast, faster than I had ever seen, and seemed to be getting quite agitated by the group of guys we were with who were joking around and not taking it seriously. It essentially told them to shut up and stop talking. I told the guys, seriously, please stop being rude, I'm kind of freaked out. Anyways, because I was getting nervous, one of the guys took over. He was a bit more serious about it. Almost immediately, the thing spelled out, "Don't open the door." Well, we were all in the basement, and there was only one door, so we all kind of looked over at it nervously. Because I was getting anxious, I took the blanket and kind of hid my face. Immediately, it spelled out, "Don't hide from me." Everyone was freaked out. The guy who had his hands on the planchette literally started to cry. He wanted to take his hands off. But we have this rule that you don't take your hands off until you get it to say goodbye. Everyone wanted to stop, but it took about 10 minutes of asking dumb questions until the thing finally slid to goodbye. Some of the guys speculated afterwards that it meant don't open the metaphorical door of the spiritual world. The reason being is we told them to never ask for a sign, or else it kind of lets the spirit roam free outside of the board. Before that guy took over, they kept asking for a sign, only for me to cut them off mid-sentence and tell them to knock it off. So this made some sense. Looking back on it, I am very much quite atheist, so not entirely sure what to make of the situation. But I won't touch that thing ever again, that's how much of an impact it left. To start mine, I'll have to tell my mom's first. The one and only time she played with it as a kid was enough to last a while. She was with a few friends, all of them in their late teens, and they got their hands on a Ouija board. They set it up in the basement and started asking the standard run-of-the-mill questions. They asked, "Is someone there?" It responded, "Yes." They asked again, "Are you alone?" Answer was yes. They asked, "Do we know you?" It tells yes. They then asked to spell its name. The board spelled DEVI. They didn't let it finish, and they all ran upstairs. Fast forward almost 20 years. My mom and I, a few Halloweens ago, decided we'd give ourselves a spook and made our own Ouija board out of paper and a glass. We started to ask the same standard questions. We asked, "Is someone there?" The respound was yes. Then we asked again, "Are you alone?" Answer was yes. I asked, "Do we know you?" It tells no. That piqued my interest. I then asked the one question that I probably shouldn't have. "Are you human?" The answer was no. We packed everything up and shut it down awfully quick. I did the best cleansing I knew of, and for a few weeks after we had weird experiences in our apartment. So we called a medicine man to cleanse the apartment. I visited an alleged haunted house with one of my teachers and a few friends. We spent the night there. Sometime around 4, we talked to one of the 3 girls who had died of cholera in the 1810s. When we communicated with her, we asked her to show herself, and all she responded with was 11:35. Flash forward to 11:35, and everyone is together and is really anxious. 11:35 comes, nothing happens. We all relax, but at 11:40, my teacher claimed she saw a girl in the window. Then, the lights flickered on and off once. Then, constant, loud, scary knocking on the doors next to us. It was very, very frightening. After it seemed over, we pulled out the Ouija board, and the girl confirmed that was her. The next morning, we find notes saying "Come back soon" scattered across the house, written on torn pieces of paper from a notepad that my teacher brought. When I was little, my mom took out a Ouija board and asked my brother and I if we'd like to play with it. She is generally atheist as well, but she has some odd tendencies. It's difficult to tell if she legitimately believes in some of the things she says, or if she is just messing with us because she has pretended to believe a lot of odd stuff in the past just to get a rise out of us. We said yes, setting up the Ouija board in the center of the kitchen table. It started out pretty funny. Someone was obviously moving the glass thing, making words like poop and stuff like that. Did I mention we were young enough for that to be hilarious? But then my mom said, let's get serious and try to contact someone. Here is where it gets weird. A friend of hers had recently gone missing. He'd been missing for a month or so, and nobody knew where he was. When we asked who it was we're talking to, his name was spelled out. Let's just say it was George, since I genuinely don't remember. When we asked George if he was my mom's friend, he said yes. My mom got visibly upset and asked where he was. He spelled in a lake. It was extremely upsetting, and we stopped immediately. Mom tried to be lighthearted about it, and since I was young, I believed it was no big deal as well, following her lead. About 2 weeks later, they found George's body. He'd been hit by some car or train or something on some bridge, and his body fell into the nearby lake, though it was more like a very large pond. It was a reasonably remote place, so nobody had found it for a while. In high school, a couple friends, my friend's mom and myself, were talking about a local building being haunted, soil conditioners that sell dirt, bark, and other landscaping goods, rumored to be the location of a murder years before. The mom worked there, so we decided to break out the board and give it a shot. I had never used one before, so I was skeptical from the jump. The place is essentially a large warehouse with tall metal racks, think Costco or Home Depot, stacked with bags of dirt, manure, bark, and other things like large ceramic flower pots. The board was glow in the dark, so we kept all the lights off. Once we got going, it started moving around and I was freaking out already. We asked if something was there to let us know, and there was a loud bang that seemed to come from the rafters on the other side of the warehouse. Every question that followed was met with a similar bang from a various location in the warehouse, sometimes close and sometimes far. The last question asked was if it meant us harm, and the thingy already on the no answer did not move. The question was repeated, and immediately followed by the closest noise yet. Seemed right on top of us. As we were rushing out, we flipped on our flashlights and saw 1 or 2 large pots fall from the racks, and heard what we would later find to be bags of bark dropping to the ground. There was also a slow, grinding noise that, when my friends returned the next day, was a sledgehammer that had been dragged through the dirt-covered cement floor, standing straight up in the air with drag marks but no footprints near. I pretty much believe in ghosts now and slept with the lights on for a week. We were hanging out in a friend's dorm room and busted out the Ouija board. There were a few of us who had used them before and a few who hadn't that were quite skeptical. It was about 11 p.m., and the communication with the board was going quite well. Gary, one of the skeptics, kept calling bullshit to the whole thing. We convinced him to sit on the floor with us and give it a shot. His first question was, "Is this for real or just a bunch of bullshit?" The planchette zipped to notice, he says. Fine, still not believing, prove it. No sooner than he finished that statement, the lights in the room flickered, and the building's fire alarm went off. This freaked us all out, and we left the room to follow fire alarm procedures. After about 20 minutes, campus safety said it was a false alarm, and let us all back into the dorms. When we arrived back up to Gary's room, the Ouija board was gone. No one took it with us, and the room was left locked. My cousin, her friend, and I had been dicking around with the board for a few days, nothing really happening. Then one day my cousin was laying on the couch with her phone in her hand. She stretched out and rested the phone on the Ouija board that was on the coffee table. The moment the phone touched it, it started to vibrate. A red light went on, and what sounded like tons of people screaming and talking in tongues came from the phone. It was as if it were on speaker, and it filled the room. We were terrified. It lasted a few moments and then the phone shut off. We got so freaked out we threw the board in the garbage and put it on the curb. The phone doesn't even have a red light. One of my best experiences involved talking with a spirit of air, which happened back when I believed only in the mental aspect of magic, and thought that the spirits I was talking to were just parts of my psyche. To test this, I asked the spirit to show some kind of sign of its existence, which I did not expect to manifest. When I asked this, a huge eagle, birds being part of an air spirit's domain, landed right outside my window, stared at me, really stared into my eyes, looked down at the board and flew away. Maybe it was coincidence, but I closed down the communication, did a rose-cross banishing ritual, and I got away from magic for a while.
If you enjoy the video, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to support us, share it to your bestie.